This summer, I'm running a new series of videos in which I review classic episodes of Doctor Who. Each week will see me watch a popular story from each Doctor that I've never seen before, then give my thoughts on the episode in a short but detailed review. I continued this week with a third Doctor serial, The Green Death. The plot sees the Doctor's companion Jo Grant encouraging him to investigate some mysterious goings-on in a Welsh village, associated with a company named Global Chemicals. Reluctant to travel to Wales at first, the Doctor makes a quick trip to Metebelis 3, while Jo travels down to meet the acclaimed environmentalist, Professor Clifford Jones. Little does she know at this point that she will end up agreeing to marry this man at the end of the episode, forcing her to part ways with the Doctor. I really did like this story. The main reason is, compared to the two 60s episodes I've watched already, a lot more happened over the course of 6 parts. Although the story was a little slow to get going at the beginning, things picked up in the later parts, and the plot comes together very nicely at the end. The Doctor wanting to visit Metebelis 3 right at the start of the story may seem absurd at first, however, it turns out to be a very handy coincidence later on. I found the plot to be very interesting, intriguing, and relatively easy to understand. The only thing I was initially unsure about is the connection between Boss and the giant maggots. The story begins with Global Chemicals pumping waste underground, leading to the maggot mutations, although as the episode progresses, the artificial intelligence Boss becomes the main enemy. It seems that Global Chemicals created the computer for world domination, and that what happened to the maggots was just a side effect of the pollution they created, presumably ultimately in an attempt to make more profit. However, this was never made too clear on screen. Because of this, I felt slightly confused by the presence of the maggots when watching the later episodes. Despite this, I thought the maggots were pretty creepy overall. It was both funny, but also very unnerving watching Jo scream when she found them for the first time in the mine. It was nice to see a somewhat innocent or misunderstood monster that only exists because of the actions of somebody else much worse. Nevertheless, they were still big pests. Despite UNIT's best efforts, they were almost impossible to destroy. I thought John Pertwee and Nicholas Courtney were excellent in this story. I've only seen them both in a handful of episodes before, so it was nice to be reminded of how entertaining they are as the third Doctor and the Brigadier. This is also the first story I've ever seen to feature Jo Grant, apart from her cameo in the Sarah Jane Adventures. Clumsy as she is, I do quite like her, and she seemed to have a good dynamic with the Doctor, helping him to understand the importance of going to investigate Global Chemicals. Cliff Jones was a great character as well, and I enjoyed watching the relationship between him and Jo progress throughout the episode. At first, I personally thought it seemed a little forced, especially when they nearly kissed very early on. However, the turning point for me was when Jones took ill after being diseased by one of the maggots. It was a brilliant moment, leaving the casual viewer unsure about whether he would survive or not. It was great to see Jo so concerned about him, and how delighted she was to find a cure. For me, this really firmed up their relationship, giving Jones a very good reason to ask Jo's hand in marriage. When it occurred to me that Cliff was a professor, I suddenly realised that there is another Professor Jones. For those that don't know, my Professor Jones is a figure adventure character. Voiced by Charlie Leggett, he first appeared in Time and the Zygons, and returned in the End of the Doctor, due to popular demand. I brought this subject up on Twitter, and a couple of you agreed with me that there could be a connection between the two professors. Even though my Jones is too old to be one of Jo and Cliff's children, I don't see why he couldn't be a brother of the original Jones. They do share some similar characteristics after all. It would be great for Jones to refer to his brother when he returns in the quest for Skovox, even if the Doctor doesn't remember him all that well. To sum up, I thought The Green Death was an excellent story, probably the best episode I've watched in this series so far. The plot was mostly fantastic. The Doctor, Jo and the Brigadier were great together, and the maggots were quite freaky. Although I've only ever seen a couple of Pertwee serials in the past, I definitely rank this as the best I have watched. And as I said, in terms of this series, I think I would place it above the Dalek invasion of Earth, leaving the Ice Warriors at the bottom. Next week, I'll be moving on to the Tom Baker era with Pyramids of Mars. Until then, goodbye.